What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow me on TikTok, all that good stuff. So let's get into this one. So, obviously, the main event for the Ring 4, an excellent card consisting of four world title fights. I believe it's four different weight divisions as well. Impeccable card. You've got Haney versus Norman on there as well, and a couple of other bouts as well. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, Abdullah Mason, a lot of these Sam Noakes top guys featured on this card. So yeah, it's a brilliant card, one of the top cards of the year, and just going to be speaking about really the main event here, which is between Anthony the Beast from the East Yard and David the Mexico Monster Benavidez. Now, going into this fight, for me, as far as predictions, I'm gonna have to favor the Mexican Monster David Benavidez, and to be honest, it's just based on common sense, really, because you look at David Benavidez's career. He pretty much was very good at super middleweight, undefeated even until now. He's got some good names on his resume. You've got Demetrius Andrade, Caleb Plant, former world champion there. You've got David Morrell. Up at light heavyweight, he hasn't looked as destructive as he did at super middleweight, but you got the win over Vosdick. So he's a guy that, of the two of them, he's been in there against I suppose Yard's opponent. You can say, right, Kovalev and Beterbiev, the two best opponents on his resume, but he's come up short against both of them. So you got to say, of the two of the guys, what Yard's got, the fact that he's the natural light heavyweight, he's got that going for him. But in terms of actual wins on your resume, David Benavidez, his resume just far outdoes Anthony Yard's. His wins are just a lot better. He's beaten a lot better people than Anthony Yard's beaten, because as good as Anthony Yard was, his sort of better performances are in losing efforts against the top guys, so Beterbiev and Kovalev. So he gave a good account of himself in, particularly, I think it was the eighth round of his fight against Kovalev. He gave a very good account of himself there and nearly stopped Kovalev, but then ended up getting stopped by a jab himself. And again, against Beterbiev, who's, you know, the number two light heavyweight in the world, used to be number one light heavyweight in the world, probably was number one at the time when Yard fought him. Um, Yard gave a very good account of himself. He made it a hard fight for Beterbiev. He pushed him, really pushed Beterbiev and made him have to work for that victory. But again, it was a losing effort. And then, outside of those two losing efforts, you've got to say with Anthony Yard, probably the best win of his career to date is against Lyndon Arthur. And he's had one of these funny careers where it's been, he's had, yes, fights against top guys like, as I said, Beterbiev and Kovalev, but then a lot of the rest of the opponents were sort of no hopers, unknown guys that are well outside the upper echelon of boxing, and he's just gone from fighting these sort of no hoper guys, the guys that are down at the bottom, to then fighting for the world titles, and then not much in between. He's had one of those weird careers where he hasn't gone through the conventional method that you go through, where you fight for English, you fight for British, you fight for European, and then once you've achieved those levels, once you pass those levels, then you go to world level. So he's not been brought along in the conventional way. He has made a lot of money out of boxing. His fights at world level have shown that he's there or thereabouts. So he's somewhere around between sort of top European and world level. He's somewhere around world level, but he obviously has fallen short at the top. Whereas you've got Benavidez, who Okay, he hasn't fought the best at light heavyweight like Yard has, but he's also, he's undefeated, and his win over Vosdick is better than any win that Anthony Yard has on his resume. It's because Yard's best performances, you're talking about losing effort. So for me, just based on those things, and of course the volume of David Benavidez, will Anthony Yard be able to cope with the volume of David Benavidez? I'm not sure. I think Yard's got kind of a puncher's chance where if he catches Benavidez, he does have a chance. But then you look at other fights with Anthony Yard, you look at guys like that Vilkans, Ralph Vilkans, think his name was, and he wasn't able to get rid of him. You look at the loss to against Lyndon Arthur, he wasn't able to get rid of him. So yes, he does have power, but is it that, sort of one punch KO power? Uh, yes, I would say he does, but again, he's he's been in there against guys like an Arthur, and not been able to get rid of him on the third time, and not been able to get rid of him the first time. The second time was brilliant, but yeah, so he does have power. He said he hits harder than Benavidez. Maybe so. It could be so because who knows? Maybe it does. Um, but for me, I just can't look past the fact that when you look at their records on paper, you've got Benavidez with the better wins on his resume at a better level than Anthony Yard. You've got Yard with fighting at a very low level, then a very high level, always falling short at the very high level, and the best win being over Lyndon Arthur, who respectfully, yes, Lyndon Arthur is a good fighter, but he's nowhere near the upper echelon of the light heavyweight division. He's nowhere near sort of the top guys. So for me, just based on what we know and based on the history of both fighters, I've got to go with David Benavidez to win this fight. I think Yard will give him trouble. Yard will give him problems, but you've just got to go with David Benavidez just based on common sense and based on who they've both beaten, who they've both been in there with. On paper, David Benavidez has sort of outside of a Kovalev and Beterbiev, Benavidez has got the better wins over the better opposition, so you've got to go with him. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and until next time, it's MKO Boxing over and out.